Every single Wednesday, we go inside the war room at 5 o'clock.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it is October, and these war rooms are going to get more and more interesting and more important as we have 33 days until the election. All right. Joining us inside the war room, of course, it's Bruce and Gaydos. We have Barry Markson, KTAR Legal Analyst. Barry, you didn't leave. You stayed here the whole night. You did the post-game.
I've got a little cot here. It's
Right?
like I never leave. Yep.
You did the vice presidential post-game last night.
Yep.
All right. And we have Stacy Pearson, Democratic Strategist, Lumen Strategies. Great to see you, Stacy.
Thanks for having me.
All right. 33 days until the election. And we have 2 October surprises. And in this half an hour, we're going to go over each of them. All right. Israel, what's happening there, and the port strike. Okay, so we're going to put the port strike just down the road a little bit.
And can we say it's October 2nd?
Yeah.
Which means we have at least 29 more possible days of surprises in October.
Right. It used to be in politics an October surprise. It came out of nowhere. We have October surprises, it seems, every day.
It's just
okay.
not even
so let's just
surprising
concentrate on the two, because will these 2 October surprises so far actually upend the election? All right. Let's start with Israel and Iran, the flare-up, the bombing. Israel is going to hit back. It's going to be big, I think. So is this a new voting issue? How big does this climb up over abortion? Does what's happening in the Middle East now climb up over the economy? What do we think?
I don't think it does. Look, it's a big issue for a lot of people. Where it may become an issue is in Michigan, where there's a large Muslim population.
Oh.
And in particular places, it may sway some voters or keep people from voting. I don't understand anyone who's Muslim and doesn't. I'm going to talk like Trump now. I don't know how a Jewish person doesn't vote for me. I don't understand how a Muslim person. I get that they're not happy with how Biden handled Israel, but is Trump better? You really think Trump's going to be better? Trump's going to let Israel do whatever it wants.
The guy that moved the embassy?
So, yeah. So I'm
Right.
not getting that. So
Yeah.
but yeah. So is it going to be a big issue? Is it going to move the needle here in Arizona or around the country? I don't think so. Is it going to be an issue in Michigan? Is it going to be an issue in? I think it's Michigan is the biggest one.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where you'd have to worry about it. And Michigan's a swing state, so it's important.
Barry, I think I don't disagree with what you just said, but which means
You don't
say
like what
anything
I
I
said.
want
Yeah,
afterwards.
fantastic.
if a wider conflict breaks out, what are the odds of the United States getting dragged into it on some level and then immediately either Biden or Harris getting credit or blame for whatever happens? I mean, that's a real prospect, isn't it?
Yeah, I think where it could be an issue is if a U.S. soldier, U.S. Navy personnel, if they become involved in this, somebody dies, and what a lot of people are saying is it'll be Israel that does the response, not the United States. But Biden and the administration kind of drew they didn't say a line in the sand. I don't want to overstate it, but they said to Iran, don't do this, don't do anything in response, and they obviously did. So I don't know if the United States is going to respond directly, but we've heard in Iraq, the Iranian people that are in Iraq, that it's all they're all there together. They've threatened U.S. personnel that are in on bases in Iraq.
Correct.
That if anything is shot into Iran, they're going to shoot at our bases. So if something like that happens, could that be a negative? Could that affect the election? Yeah.
Okay.
This can spiral very.
It could
quickly.
go out of control
Absolutely.
quickly.
Well,
Stacey?
that's the concern, right? Does this conflict become Biden and Harris's Benghazi?
Okay.
And there that was an albatross Hillary Clinton couldn't get away from, and I'm not sure. Certainly, I have no degree in foreign policy. I have a degree in journalism. I don't know any of this, but I know that it certainly is a liability if American troops have to engage on the ground, or if an embassy, or if American diplomats are hurt.
Yeah.
It then the U.S. and its response becomes extraordinarily important.
Think about some voters out there. We're inside the war room. We've got Stacy Pearson, Barry Markson, and we've got Bruce and Gaydos. Think about the person who, and I know there are not many of them out there, they're still thinking about who they're going to vote for, and they look at what's happening in the Middle East. Here's the Trump argument. Well, he was sitting in the Oval Office for 4 years. The guy went to North Korea, okay? He met with Kim Jong-un. No American president did that. He knows Putin. He's buddies with Putin. He knows Netanyahu.
I'm sorry. This is the argument
the
for
Trump
Trump.
I was going to say, at least the good things are.
This is what Trump people are saying.
All right.
That he has experience and Kamala has none. He's sat down with these world leaders. Now you can talk about the very lovely letters that they went through with Kim Jong-un and all that, but this is a guy who has sat with world leaders and he did it for 4 years. And Kamala's never done it. And we've got 2 places on the planet that are blowing up.
So Dennis Rodman also met with Kim Jong-un.
Solid argument.
I don't want him to be president.
No?
I
What about
don't.
Secretary of Defense? Give him a lesser one.
I don't know. And it still goes back to one guy dodged the draft. I mean, I do not think that Trump has respect for the American military, and he's shown it again and again. And that, I think, comes down to.
So what if we take it off Trump?
Yeah.
Let's go to Kamala. What kind of foreign policy experience does she have?
Look at the people. I think I can speak for everybody in this room, and Stacy just said it. None of us have foreign policy experience. I'm not a national security expert by any means.
When you're running for president, you need it.
But here's what I do know. The people who are national security experts in both Republican and Democratic administrations over the last 16 years are all supporting Kamala Harris.
Exactly.
All of them, 700 of them. The military leaders, the generals, and they're not necessarily Republicans or Democrats, but over the last 20 years, they've come out, hundreds of them, in support of Kamala Harris, not Trump. The military people, the national security people who served under Trump, his people, he picked these people. Not people he
the
was...
generals.
Not people he was saddled with. The people he selected to serve in his administration are all saying, this guy's dangerous. I'm not voting for him, and neither should you.
Dick Cheney.
And many of them have come out and said, well, but look, go back, Jim, his secretaries of defense, his national security advisors, his secretaries of state, go through them. Not one of them is voting for him, and they've said that. So if you want to talk about who's more dangerous, who has experience, who's better for the country, who's better for the world, these people who do this for a living are all saying Kamala Harris.
So you go with the unknown.
It's not an unknown.
No.
She's been vice president for 4 years. She's in the Situation Room. She understands.
Was
these
a U.S.
issues.
senator.
She was a U.S. senator. She's visited with world leaders people around the world. It's not. Look, if you bring me in, it's no experience. She's been the vice president.
But
for 4 years.
I would say this, and to echo something Barry's saying, regardless of what you think of any candidate, there is no president. There is no human that is an expert on absolutely everything.
Indeed.
So at some point, you have to trust they will surround themselves with smart people who can help them make decisions
That they listen to.
that they might actually take advice from.
So if you go back to George W. Bush when he was asked all those questions about who's the leader over here, who's the leader over there, and he didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, is that kind of what we're looking at? You have to be thrown into the deep end of the pool to understand what's going on.
Those were kind of cheesy questions if you look back on them, I think a little bit. But here's the thing.
Well, they weren't cheesy. He didn't know any of them.
I say this all the time. Nobody becomes president generally and has the experience necessary to be the president. You don't know until you've done that job. Now, I'm making an argument for Trump because he's done it. He's done it incredibly poorly, but he's the only one that does it. But most people who are elected president the first time, they don't know what they're doing. They've never done the job before. It's a very unique job.
Sure.
It's why they age in dog years, right?
Yeah.
they really have never.
Presidents, they come out with gray hair and they went in with perfectly.
8 years later, they look 105.
Right.
It happens.
So do the American people look at what's happening in Ukraine, and they're looking at what's happening with Iran and Israel, and obviously they're going to vote for either Trump or Harris. Does this even come up?
I think it comes up in the context of people who now, because they're MAGA supporters and suddenly we're no longer leaders of the free world, we have to get out of Ukraine and stop helping. Now, we're not in Ukraine. We have to stop helping Ukraine immediately.
Giving them arms.
Which I do not understand for the life of me, how people who were Republicans 4 years ago are now suddenly saying get out of Ukraine. I mean, John McCain is rolling over in his grave.
Yes, but I don't understand. My issue is the inconsistency. Get out of Ukraine. Don't have anything to do with that. What about Israel? We need to start bombing Iran tomorrow. Like, okay, which is it? Do you want to get involved in wars or do you not want to get involved in wars?
Well, it depends on what Trump says. I mean, that's the answer. There's no actual policy here. There's
But
no
we're
thoughtful
already
policy.
in both of these wars in one way or another.
But really,
so is the American economy.
Yeah.
Like we're not sending bags of cash, right? We're sending munitions that are being produced by American workers.
And there are no Americans on the ground there. There's no American deaths there. This is what's going on in Ukraine right now is frankly, I think, and historically, people will look back and say it was brilliant.
Yeah.
We've decimated the Russian army. This has gone on for 2 years, and all it did was cost us money. It's amazing. We're not there.
Not
We don't-
lives, yeah.
no lives. And if anything, it's help business because we're producing the munitions and things.
Right.
It's actually brilliant.
We're
what's going
sending
on
them
right
like
now.
tanks and planes
Yeah.
that we make here.
That we make,
And,
right.
and guns and missiles and things.
All right,
Exactly.
so it's October 2nd.
Yeah.
We've had two October surprises. The first that we just talked about, Iran just, 200 ballistic missiles
Yep.
to Israel.
Raining
There is
down
a
on Israel.
second October surprise.
That it is. We're going to tackle this next, and it may affect people's pocketbooks. It may affect the entire U.S. economy. The port strike. And what a convenient time to hold a strike. I'm sure it's completely coincidental. We're talking about it next. We're outspoken inside the War Room on KTAR. Hey, real quick, let me give a shout out to all of the people listening down in Maricopa at the Copa.
Oh my God,
That's not what they
happen.
call it.
That should not
That was
be
bad.
happening.
We're
Yes.
just going to edit that out. That won't even go over the radio.
I don't want to play anymore.
Thanks a lot, everyone in Maricopa, for listening. We are inside the War Room. We have KTAR Legal Analyst Barry Markson, Democratic Strategist with Lumen Strategies, Stacy Pearson, as well as Gaydos and myself. We're talking about October surprises. The first one potentially being Iran raining down missiles on Israel. The next surprise, a little closer to home, and it has to do with a strike at the ports. Now, to be fair and specific, it is East Coast ports. Think Maine to Texas, a little bit of the Gulf in there. It's not Long Beach, West Coast ports, but still, the longshoremen decided, you know what? October, right before the election, now's the time. And I think they did it for maximum leverage.
Well, they definitely did. And I saw something today. One of the wives of the longshoreman was on there yelling at someone who was critiquing them for doing it now, and she said it's a 6-year contract. They agreed, and the companies agreed in the contract that there would be no automation, the last contract, and then they secretly put in automation, and they just found that out, and they don't trust them. She said they waited because they were trying not to make an issue. They were trying to help the country get through summer, and at some point it has to happen. The other thing I saw, and I don't know if this is entirely true or not, but that the head of the union for these guys is not a Democrat, is not a Biden guy or a Harris guy. He's a Trump guy, and they're saying he did this at this time to help Trump.
Are you saying, is that Harold Daggett?
Yeah. So that if the economy goes down now, right before the election, people will blame Harris, and it'll help Trump.
I saw a picture of his house, by the way.
Nice house.
It's a really nice house. It's got a 5-car garage.
When we say that this is an October surprise, this will threaten shipping, manufacturing, pre-holiday retail. We've talked to a lot of different people. They've texted us. They've called us. At Costco, at Sam's Club.
Stop saying that. I have to go in there.
No, I was there last night. I went to Costco last night.
Hell hath no fury, like women who can't get a case of paper towels,
There
right?
is
Like,
hold on.
that's what this is.
There is I'm not joking. There is a run on toilet paper.
It's real.
It is real.
ridiculous.
There is a run on water, and there is a run on paper towels.
How is there a run on water? You just like the faucet.
The
You got a
faucet has
right
so
there.
much water. It's an
Incredible.
endless amount as far as I figure.
Well, and people are going to have PTSD from COVID
Right.
when we
No, right.
had nothing.
But
on
is it
shelves.
fair to say that this happening right now reflects poorly on the White House? The guy in charge,
How is
Biden
it his?
Harris
This isn't
gets
him. How is this him? How is it the president? The president.
when you're in charge, you get the good and the bad.
The president is not God. I don't know how to tell people that. I know, Bruce, you say this all the time. The president does not control gas prices.
Come on!
The president
You're
does not-
ruining it for everyone.
I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful if he could? But
Who are they?
don't.
But who are they negotiating with?
The companies that own
shipping
the
companies.
ports
Yeah.
and the shipping companies, it's a different. I don't know if you knew this. Don't even get me started on how much I know about shipping. But it's a bunch of foreign countries,
Right.
the Chinese being one of them,
Right.
that literally own the port.
Yeah, but what's the White House have to do with this?
Well, the
Nothing.
White House is on the side of the
Bad
labor
things are the
unions.
president's fault. Good
Right.
things are not, right?
But
I mean, that's how this
that's
works.
the reality, isn't it?
But
Whether
we
you
were-
like it or not.
I was in focus groups yesterday, and it didn't come up at all.
The port strike.
It's
Well, it
kind of-
hasn't
it's
impacted
new.
anybody yet.
It is.
It's new.
I know it's new.
Yeah.
But when it was raised, is the port strike. These are some headlines coming out from the last 7 days, and the port strike was on there, delay in goods. Costco's on a run. People are mad at Costco, and again, that doesn't mean that it's infiltrated their Instagram reels
right.
and the
It's no cats and dogs as an issue.
it's not.
But it has the potential to become.
It's gonna
Is
be.
that fair?
It does. It also has the potential to be resolved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, except here's the problem, as I understand it, they haven't been talking or had negotiations since June. So if you want to say something about what could the White House have done, maybe they should have
Put them in a
had
room
everybody
together and
come in.
said, solve this.
I always go back to the West Wing with President Bartlett, where there was a huge trucking strike coming in, and he forced them all to come to the White House, and they're arguing, and nothing's happening, goes on all day, and he walks in there, he's all mad about something else, and he goes in there, he has everybody stand up because the president walks in, and they go to sit down, and he says, don't sit down. And he tells them, you have an hour. And if you don't do this in an hour, I'm going to nationalize all of your companies.
Right.
And then the labor guys are all smiling, and I'm going to draft all of your labor people into the army.
Yeah.
That's happening in an hour. Fix it. And they fixed it. So, but that's makeup. That's television. It doesn't
Right.
work that way.
Here's the International Longshoremen Association president.
/ mobster.
He sounds like a mobster.
Oh, 100.
Harold Daggett.
These people today don't know what a strike is. Right. When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen?
What's going to
I'll tell you.
happen?
First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week,
Boom, boom.
guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships.
No cost.
They get laid off.
All right, a little bit more from the
This is
mobster.
Tony
Third week.
Soprano.
This is
This
amazing.
is from The
More.
Sopranos.
Third week, malls start closing down.
Malls.
They can't get the goods from
Malls.
China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this.
All right, let's say he's right. They're going to blame Biden and Harris. You guys already know that. They're going to blame them. They're in the White
This
House. It's going to
season-
be their fault. That's how this thing works. If Trump was in the White House, we'd be bagging on Trump.
It's not a good thing, but here's the deal. First of all, a lot of the stores saw this coming. A lot of retailers saw this coming, and they've been stockpiling stuff. How long that lasts, I don't know.
Apparently not toilet paper.
But it's out there. The next, and you're right though, Gaydos. It's at some point it's going to lay with the president. And here's where it hurts. The latest polling that's coming out, Harris is pulling. She's neck and neck now with Trump when they say who's best to take care of inflation. They're
yeah.
tied at 47% each. And Trump was leading on how to handle the economy by a lot. It's down to 5 or less points in some of these polls now. So that's where this hurts. If the economy starts to struggle again, if inflation goes up, if people can't get goods, but it's so close. We're 30 days out, 35,
33 days.
Yeah, I mean it's how much it's going to hit and be felt in the next 30 days. I don't know.
All right, we're inside the war room. We've got another half an hour every Wednesday at 5. Today we've got Barry Markson, Stacy Pearson. We've got Bruce and Gaydos. And 33 days until the election. We talked about the 2 October surprises. It looks like a war between Iran and Israel. And then the port strike with the mobster who you just heard. Coming up next, the VP debate last night. All right? Should these two be at the top of the ticket instead of Trump and Kamala? Next. All right, second half of the war room.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you missed the first half, the 2 October surprises. We're 2 days into October. We already got 2 October surprises. Could upend the election. If you missed it, shame on you. You can go and check out our podcast and listen to the next half an hour.
Shame, I call it.
Okay, so we've got Bruce and Gaydos. We've got Stacy Pearson, Democratic strategist, Lumen Strategies, and Barry Markson, KTAR Legal Analyst. Let's go to the vice presidential debate last night. No name calling. It was boring. They actually talked policy, and everybody's ticked off.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
listen,
come on!
I'll be honest. I wasn't entertained.
Yeah.
I was
Very gladiator. Are you not entertained?
I'm just saying. I mean, I wonder if we've gotten to the point where a debate like what we saw last night that was respectful, no one wants to watch it.
Yeah, Trump's ruined everything now. You have to be screaming at each other, or nobody's interested.
Or name calling,
Yeah,
or being disrespectful.
Right. I said last night on the post debate show that it was interesting. It kind of flashed me back to 30 years ago when candidates would debate and actually say to each other, "I agree with what you just said. I think that's a good idea." We haven't heard that in 10 years, 20 years. But they said it several times. They both said it last
I haven't
night.
heard it since 2015.
So it was an interesting debate in that respect. I will say J.D. Vance, I think he benefited greatly from that, because to the extent people thought he was the guy saying they're eating cats and dogs and the most extreme statements he had and all that, I think he came across as a little more normal. He softened himself. He did a decent job of that. He ruined it at the end with the Obamacare stuff, and then of course with January 6th and all that.
January 6th is not bad because the 20th was fine.
Yeah, I mean,
What?
and Tim Walz did a great job. Tim Walz struggled at the beginning. He was nervous, but he got better as it went on. And when he turned to J.D. Vance Vance and said, "Did Trump lose the 2020
great.
election?"
Let's go there.
and he
I'm going to
could-
play this clip
Okay.
here. So we're inside the war room, and Bruce, you told
can
me
I
this
tell you about this? So-
off the air. So tell it now.
Our friends over at Fox 10 did a poll. Okay. And they said, what topic was most important to you from last night's vice presidential debate? 69% of the respondents said this part.
Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is
Has she tried to-
that is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further.
Then talk
Not
about
really.
it.
When you
It's
say
really
happy
bad.
to talk about it, you mean not talk about it. And by the way, both of them did masterful jobs of, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but first I want to talk about this, which is the standard
happen.
political
Right,
BS, right? Stacey, you literally teach them to say that, don't you?
100%.
100%.
Well, I will explain that later, but
Yes.
first what I'd like to talk about.
That's a great question, and
Yes,
it
it's a
deserves
great
an answer.
question.
But let me talk about it.
But you're saying 69% of the people in Arizona said that was the number one issue.
That was the
That's-
topic, the topic that stood out to them from the debate.
So that is my number one issue because to me there's nothing that goes beyond that. If,
It's my number one
democracy-
issue.
if we don't have a peaceful
Right?
transition of power, we don't have a country. The rest of it's secondary. So I'm stunned that 69%
It said,
of people
what
said
topic
that
was the most important to you from last night's vice presidential debate?
And I love that this was a
69%
Fox
said
poll.
Yeah.
democracy, Fox 10,
Right.
democracy, and the waltz Vance back and forth on the election.
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Here's why. We all know why. He answered it the way that a Trump voter would like him to answer it.
Well, he was speaking to Trump.
There are Trump voters. Most of them think something was up in 2020. He answered the question like that, and the Trump voter said, "Yeah, that's pretty much
Well,
it.
it's
That's me."
not Trump voters. It's one guy. If he says anything, I mean, I'm actually wondering if Trump's mad at him for not saying he didn't lose. He
It was
won.
rigged,
right,
or something like that,
and,
right.
And he didn't go that far. So, but that was.
But he didn't hurt himself with that answer.
No, well, I
the
mean,
left
he
doesn't
did.
like that
He-
answer.
I think when you talk about what stood out in that debate, I think that line,
who?
but to both sides, that
69%.
line stands
you think
out.
a Trump supporter is saying that
But-
that's the
but
thing that
no
stood
Trump
out to me?
supporter and no Harris supporter were swayed by the vice presidential debate.
Right.
If there are truly undecided independents out there, I don't think that helps.
The ticket splitters, for sure. The Republicans who have voted for Senator Sinema and Senator Kelly and Governor Hobbs against extremists, those folks watched that and said, "This guy can't be trusted."
If that's where we're going to be again, I mean,
I'm not doing it.
They,
Yep.
they said I think you said it yesterday. They said it again today. That's why Mike Pence isn't on that dais for the vice presidential debate.
Exactly.
Because he's telling us because he refused to do that in 2020. He
Right.
did his job.
Right.
And there's a lot of Republicans, by the way, who did their job. That's why this didn't work. The coup didn't work because
Rusty Bowers.
Pence did his
Rusty
job.
Bowers.
And Doug Ducey did his
Doug
job. And
Ducey
Rusty
did his
Bowers did
job.
his job. And the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors
Every
did their
governor
job.
in the United States did their job.
Exactly.
That's why this worked. The problem now is Trump has installed a whole sorts of folks who are just saying
And he's working on it in Maricopa County.
like Vance, right? There are a lot of people like Vance saying, "I won't certify." But here's where it gets down to, Gaydos. I mean, we just talked about some polling, the polling averages here in Arizona.
We're going to get to that in the next.
Oh,
segment.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't want you to.
Don't jump ahead yet.
All right.
Why don't we stop there? Because that's where we should go next.
Okay.
The polling in Arizona. We've got a couple new polls that have come out, and I think I got to tell you, I think they're pretty shocking. I don't know
Little
if you guys
interesting.
are.
I would like to say they're exciting.
Okay. Exciting, according to Stacy Pearson,
Yes.
Democratic strategist
Okay,
at Lumen
there.
Strategies. Barry Markson, our KTAR Legal Analyst, inside the war room as well. And we'll dig into some of those numbers. And, well, who is winning in Arizona? It's coming up next. We're inside the war room here on Outspoken. We are inside the war room. We do this every Wednesday. It's the 5 o'clock hour. We will do it up to the election. Do we have to do it past the election, Gaydos?
We're going to do it past the election
Oh, for the
too.
love of all that's holy. Okay, so anyway, we're going to continue
Somebody's
to do
going
it.
to complain after the election.
You know damn well
something
that's gonna
weird
happen.
is going to happen.
Yeah.
If Harris wins, Trump is going to claim it was rigged.
Well, we already know that.
If Trump wins, then you've got that issue to deal with.
The last time Trump won, he still complained and said he won by more.
He won by more than he won
Yeah,
by. Yes.
that's true.
Well, we saw the crowd. I mean, he had the largest crowd ever in the
crowd.
history of the
Here we
mall.
go.
I
Yes.
think
In the
Joining us
history
in
of DC.
there's going to be
Big crowds.
complaining from both sides, no matter what happens after this election.
Joining us in the war room is Stacy Pearson. She's a Democratic strategist with Lumen Strategies, and Barry Markson, our KTAR Legal Analyst. We're talking about Arizona, and you know what? I mean, I was looking at some polls and some of the Real Clear Politics, which is a poll aggregator, and heard of some rumblings, if you will. Maybe Arizona wasn't the swing state people thought it was going to be. And of the 7 swing states that are out there, was Arizona the weakest one for Harris? And if you look strictly at polls a couple weeks ago, the answer to that could be yes. Well, now what am I looking at? For the Stacy, we got new polling data out.
Yeah.
From some reasonably reputable polling that shows the race tightening in Arizona. And in some polls, not all of them, some polls, Harris in the lead in Arizona? Come on. Do you believe that?
It is possible. And
Okay.
it is, look, when Harris entered this race, or when we were sitting at this very desk talking about the issues at the top of the ticket when Biden was still there.
Right.
We had an enthusiasm problem. We Democrats had an enthusiasm problem, and we had an age problem. And she solves both of those. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that she increases voter turnout among Democrats, and she persuades more independents. There are a heck of a lot more, 100,000 plus more this cycle over last, that she persuades those independents to vote for her. And Trump hasn't gotten any less insane. Like, he doesn't say any less crazy, any fewer crazy things.
He was kind of dark this weekend, wasn't he?
He was
He even said he was dark. He called himself this is a dark speech. I mean, he said that.
Dark Brandon was fun to watch.
Yeah.
This is not fun to watch. So
So
I think there's opportunity here.
There's a high ground poll just came out. Harris plus 4 in Arizona. I'm looking at. I can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other polls that I'm looking at that have Trump in the lead.
Yeah.
And then I will take 2 other ones that I see that have Harris in the lead. One is a Fox News poll. Harris plus 1 in Arizona.
I've got the
Yes.
Cook political report up here. Is it fair to say, is Cook pretty reputable? Do people
Very.
feel it's really kind of
very,
a gold
very.
standard, isn't it?
Well, and
It's an
those researchers find really interesting trends. They're the ones that point out that your vote can be predicted by how close you are to either a Whole Foods or a Cracker Barrel. Like, it's this really
And that's
interesting.
like- I've seen
It's-
that
it's
actual data. It's
Americana.
crazy,
They
right?
get it, right?
Yeah.
It's Americana.
Well, they have in Arizona, they have in a 3-party race with other candidates on the ballot.
Because RFK is off the ballot.
Right, but there are going to be
A couple
Jill
other names.
Stein and
Right.
some others. Yeah, they have Harris up by 3, which is consistent. Well, she was up 4 in August, up 3 now, and then just head to head, her and Trump, they have Harris up 2.
What has Harris done to deserve to win Arizona? Part of the border issue, 3.5 years, totally absent, let everybody in. What I'm just wondering, what is, and again, I don't know what Trump's done for Arizona either, but he's not in office. What has Kamala Harris done to deserve to win Arizona?
And she wasn't the president. Let's just start there. I mean,
know.
she
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah,
If
she
you're-
didn't have control over the border.
If you want to give her credit or blame, I guess, for what happened over the last 4 years in Arizona, the CHIPS Act has been amazing. We've had giant multi-billion-dollar investment in Arizona in high tech, which is going to result in high-paying jobs.
Barry, it's a great point.
They're building
Infrastructure,
those,
yeah.
You're right.
and that's the infrastructure. The infrastructure that's coming here right now. They're building Wi-Fi out into the rural areas.
what we're
And
really
those folks,
saying is-
by the way, are all going to vote for Trump. And they're like, "Hey, we've got Wi-Fi now."
So this is interesting. So what we're really saying is Biden did a good job for the chip factories here in Arizona. He did a horrible job on the border, and now we're asking the question: well, what did Kamala do to deserve to win Arizona?
Well,
She
hasn't
lowered
really done anything.
insulin
and-
price. Like, she was
Right,
part of the
yeah.
team that brought insulin prices down.
She was
And the-
part of the team that brought all this these billions of
hold on,
dollars.
Well,
to
they-
Arizona.
hold on. Can we just be realistic? What the hell does a vice president ever do?
Nothing.
What did Mike Pence ever do?
Save the country.
But you know what I'm saying?
I know.
actually, kind of, yeah.
Like
You just lumped in with the ticket, Bruce. That's all I'm saying.
But I understand that, but I think it's disingenuous. I heard, of course, I understand why they say the Harris-Biden regime or whatever. But the reality is the vice president is there to salute smartly, say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and move on.
To answer your question, though, Gaydos, what the conservatives or the MAGA people do really well is they just keep talking, and suddenly that becomes the reality. This presidency has not been bad. The border was bad. It was bad for 3.5 years.
Right.
They've actually fixed it now. I don't know what the heck they did, but the number of crossings.
I think they probably did something illegal, but I'm still okay with
they're
it because
ignoring
it's
the
across
asylum
border.
law.
The crossings now are lower than they were at the end of Trump's term. So something's changed. Should they have done that 3 years ago? Yes. But what they've done is GDP is up. The economy is strong. Unemployment's been at all-time low. We keep hearing how Trump's wages were way up. Wages are up more now under Biden over the last several years than they were ever up under
jobs,
Trump. People have more money in their savings account than they did under Trump. And I'm taking COVID out of it. It's before that. People have better jobs. They're making more money. They're feeling better about stuff. They have more money in their house, more equity in their house. The economy is humming along.
I just don't know if that story's being told.
It's
and if
not.
it is being told, I don't know if people believe
because
it.
even when I listen,
They don't.
there's
Because
so
they
much
don't
conservative media.
feel it, though,
when I hear
right?
people in the conservative media talking about it, it's always, well, the GDP's up, and then they start looking at what may happen in the future, and it's all the boogeyman stuff.
And it's all so personal, right?
It's
It is my
crazy.
son's rent is $1,900 for a two-bedroom apartment, and people take that so personally. It's not about the economy writ
true.
large.
Yeah.
It's about their family,
I
their
still don't
friends.
understand what people think the president of the United States is going to do about the rent.
I got to tell you, the rents are high here. They are high. I'm dealing with it right now. My son just graduated from college, and his rent's going to be very high. We're looking at it right now. But I'm going to tell you, that's because Arizona is so attractive right now.
People are moving here.
Exactly.
And that's
point.
it's a simple supply and demand.
Yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for another outstanding War Room. Stacy Pearson.
Thank you.
My goodness, Barry Markson with us today again. We'll do it again next Wednesday. How's that? 5 o'clock. We hope you guys will spend a little bit of time with us.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.